Good evening, everyone. This is Hussein Ghariali, and I will be your host for this evening. Thank you for joining us on this webinar series, Advances in Neuroimaging, organized by GE Healthcare and InMed Prognostics, Team NeuroShield. Our topic for the day is Role of Imaging in Stroke, with an emphasis on impact of artificial intelligence in stroke imaging. Our speaker for the day is Dr. Anirudh Joshi. Dr. Anirudh is an MBBS, DMRD, DNB radiology. He has an experience of 15 years in the radiology domain, and his interests include neuroradiology, vascular imaging, and real world applications of artificial intelligence. He has published various national and international papers, including papers submitted at the ECR and the RSNA. He has chaired several national and international conferences and has conducted numerous workshops on neuroradiology. Our panelist for the day is Dr. Unni Krishnan. He's a doctor of medicine from the Angeles University Foundation School of Medicine, Philippines. He has a degree in medical imaging technology from the International School of Medical Imaging Technology, Secunderabad, India. He shares a deep passion for the healthcare industry and in bringing business elements to enhance the delivery of healthcare. His areas of work interests include medical imaging, patient counseling. He's a practicing medical doctor, healthcare IT, PACS, medical device technology, and entrepreneurship with clinical healthcare consultancy. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, a couple of things to note. All participants will remain muted during the presentation. We would request you to add your questions to the Q&A session. They will be addressed by Dr. Joshi and our panelist, Dr. Unni Krishnan, at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Joshi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Aniruddha Joshi. I am going to talk regarding the role of imaging in stroke and impact of artificial intelligence. So I will share my screen here. So everyone knows that stroke is imaging is very much important in case of prognosis of the patients and the outcome. Earlier we give the treatment, better is the prognosis. So what are the aims of imaging? First and foremost, you should rule out immediately the intracranial hemorrhage because that will change the treatment. Then any stroke mimics like infections, like neoplasms, we should detect the early signs of ischemia. Also, to detect the site of occlusion, that is large vessel occlusions, to take the treatment decision, immediate treatment, whether the infarct is growing slow or growing fast, and to prognosticate the patients. So this everything should be done in 10 to 15 minutes because we are having very small window for the treatment. So objective of imaging include prompt, accurate diagnosis, treatment triage, prognosis prediction, and secondary preventive precautions. So just going to the imaging part, we will see some pathophysiology, which is very much important for the imaging and the diagnosis in case of strokes. So acute episodic neurological deficit caused by ischemia or hemorrhage in the brain is a stroke. There are certain terminologies, that is transient ischemic attack is caused by a temporary clot, that is the focal neurological deficit that resolves in 24 hours. So there are a lot of types of strokes, mainly the cerebral infarction, maybe due to the commonly the atherosclerotic vessels, then cardiac emboli, then intracranial hemorrhage, the non-traumatic subarachnoid hemorrhages, maybe due to the aneurysms, and the venous infarcts, mainly the venous occlusion or thrombosis of dural sinuses. So what is the pathophysiology? So here, the cerebral blood flow normally 50 to 60 ml per 100 gram per minute for the brain. So when it is decreased to 35 ml, we called it as a oligemic state. When it is 20 ml, we called it as a ischemic, and less than 10 or 0 is an infarction. So why it is important? Basically, the few terminologies like penumbra, that is a tissue at risk, which is salvageable. So tissue at risk detection is the primary goal of the imaging. So initially, the therapeutic window for the stroke is less than 3 hours, which is now changed to more than 6 hours. I will explain in my further slides. So here is the diagrammatic presentation. We can see the right upper corner image, which is showing the yellow ischemic core, and the blue is the penumbra. So penumbra is a no cell death. There is a potentially salvageable with reperfusion. So coming to the goals, you should always remember the targeted to your assessment of the 4 Ps. These 4 Ps are very important in case of acute imaging, acute stroke imaging. So the first is a parenchyma, second is the pipes, that is the vessels, then perfusion and penumbra. So these are the imaging modalities, mainly CT scan and MRI are used. The parenchyma, why it is important? Because to assess the early signs of acute stroke and rule out hemorrhage. What are the pipes? Mainly the assess the extracranial circulation, that is the carotid and vertebral arteries, occlusions, and intracranial circulation, mainly the anterior cerebral, middle cerebral, and posterior cerebral arteries. So perfusion to assess the cerebral blood volume, the cerebral blood flow, and mean transit time. And the penumbra to assess the tissue at risk of dying if ischemia continues with the recanalization of intravascular thrombus. So what are the early ischemic signs? There is a focal parenchymal hypodensity on CT scan. There is a cortical swelling with sulcal effacement. There is a loss of gray white matter differentiation and hyperdense MCA sign. I will just go through in a short period of time. This is a hyperdense MCA sign. Everybody knows the arrow shows the left MCA is hyperdense. Probable there is a thrombosis of left MCA. Then obscuration of the lentiform nucleus. The arrow shows on left side the lentiform nucleus is obscured. You can compare on contralateral side. Then insular rebirth sign. It is also here we can see the insular cortex is effaced. Then few things which is very important, that is hemorrhagic transformation of the infarcts, the large left parietal infarct turning out to be a hemorrhagic transformation. And these are the subacute infarcts which are very much above the window period of the stroke. So these kind of infarcts are very much important to know. But there are certain limitations on CT. That is 60% of the CT are normal in first few hours. The observer may not be able to detect early subtle changes and of course the radiation. But still CT is the gold standard for the acute imaging in stroke. So what are these strokes and what are the arterial supply? Just go through these. This red area is showing the anterior cerebral artery circulation. The yellow is middle cerebral artery. And you can see the posterior fossa, the posterior cerebral artery circulation. So in wake-up stroke, mainly the patient unknown the onset of symptoms, such as those who suffer a wake-up stroke are often denied for the treatment also. So it is very much important to know the time of onset of the stroke. Here, one of the example we can see here, there is a right side arrow showing the hypertense dot. Because just seeing the dot, we can't comment that there could be an infarct. But giving some other modalities like perfusion imaging, we can easily diagnose whether it is an infarct or not. So here we can see the perfusion CT maps shows altered mean transit time and cerebral blood flow in the right frontotemporal area suggestive of ischemia. So there is a small subcortical area with decreased cerebral blood volume suggestive of an infarcted core. Note that there is an increased cerebral blood flow and cerebral blood volume in the right caudate and lentiform nucleus, also representing the first stage of brain ischemia. So there is a thus potential salvageable brain tissue is equivalent to cerebral blood flow minus cerebral blood volume. So it is a penumbra. Coming to diffusion imaging, it is uniquely sensitive to detect the earliest changes within 90 minutes. So sensitivity is 88% to 100%. So detecting of small acute infarcts are also possible on diffusion imaging. So here are the few examples which are showing left frontal acute infarcts on diffusion imaging. Similar to CT perfusion, the MR perfusion, we will give the gadolinium, mainly the 5 ml per second via injector, and we do the sequential imaging to get the cerebral blood flow, cerebral blood volume, mean transit time values, and these are analyzed to know the penumbra and core of the infarct. So what it is provide information about the brain perfusion and permit differentiation from infarcted tissue from the penumbra. So these are the few parameters mainly used. I had already discussed that mean transit time, that is the time between arterial inflow and venous outflow. Then time to peak, that is the time from beginning of the contrast injection to peak enhancement of intracellular region of interest. The cerebral blood flow, this is the volume of blood flow per unit of brain mass per unit of time. The normal is 50 to 60 ml per 100 gram per minute. Then cerebral blood volume, this is the volume of blood per unit of brain mass. So normal cerebral blood volume is 4 to 5 ml per 100 gram. So cerebral blood flow is cerebral blood volume divided by mean transit time. So these are the few parameters which are very much important in stroke imaging. So why it is important? So there are different patterns you will get on imaging. So when there is a perfusion imaging showing more area than diffusion imaging, then we can suspect it will respond very well with the thrombolysis. The second possibility is perfusion is equivalent to diffusion, and there is a complete match. So there is an unlikely to benefit from the thrombolytic therapy. So if perfusion is less than diffusion, so there is a partial or complete spontaneous recanalization happen or unlikely to benefit from the thrombolytic therapy. So these are the three possibilities we have to evaluate in stroke imaging. So here we can see the one of the examples, the diffusion weighted images. That yellow portion is the core infarct. Then the perfusion showing a large red area on same side, which is more than the diffusion area. So there is a mismatch. This blue area is a mismatch. That is penumbra, and that is salvageable tissue. So we have to find out how much is the salvageable tissue, and this is the best candidate for the thrombolysis. Still, there is a confusion how we can going to calculate all these parameters within a 10 minutes of time, and how can we all conclude and tell to the physician is a big task. For that, every time the radiologist will be available on site and give these kind of parameters and post-processing. But nowadays, here comes the impact of artificial imaging in stroke. There are a lot of complicated algorithms, and they are providing a very good imaging parameters on stroke imaging. So the most advanced cerebral imaging products available in the market, that is Rapid AI and NeuroShield, these are giving us very good values which can be immediately interpreted and seen within a fraction of a minutes. Within 5 minutes, you will get all the data on your screen. So coming to the terminology, what impact having the artificial imaging on imaging in stroke. So New England Journal of Medicine has published the data of thrombectomy for stroke at 6 to 16 hours with a selection by the perfusion imaging. So initially it is said that the window is less than 3 hours, but now it is increased to 6 to 16 hours. So this is a major impact that we are getting more time for the treatment. So there are prognosticating approaches. There are two approaches, that is CT-based approach and CT angiography-based approach. Here we can see the albatross stroke. That means there are certain areas in brain, mainly at the level of basal ganglia and above the basal ganglia. They are divided into numbers, mainly the total numbers of 10. So wherever there is a hypodensity, that is an infarct, that area is minus. Suppose there are two areas of hypodensity, we will minus from 10, that is 10 minus 2, the score is 8. Why it is score is important? When there is a 8 to 10 score, that is a good prognosis. And when there is a less than 8, there is a poor prognosis. So artificial intelligence will give you the score immediately within a seconds. So that will help us to whether the prognosis for the patient to decide which treatment. These are the few areas which are outlined by the AI. So then there is another things which we have to assess the intracranial collaterals on CT angiography. In each and every patient, we do the CT angiography, and why it is important. Mainly, basically, that will detect the large vessel occlusion. Here on the image, the cerebral angiography shows the left middle cerebral artery is completely occluded. Why it is important? There are second approach, mainly the collateral imaging to prognosticating the patient. We are doing single phase CT and multi-phase CT angiographies. In multi-phase CT angiographies, you can see the upper row shows the good collaterals. Here, the left middle cerebral artery occluded, but there are a lot of, in phase 1, 2, and 3, there are good collaterals are available. So the intermediate collaterals, mainly in second row, we can see there are few collaterals as compared with the first row, and the poor collaterals, very poor collaterals are seen on right side, the right MCI occlusion. This is another study which is showing very poor collaterals. Why it is important? We will see. Similar to CT scan, we will do MR imaging also. So this is a MR imaging which is showing arterial phase, capillary phase, early venous phase, and late venous phase. Here the diagram representing the right MCI occlusion with a growing infarct core with a shrinking penumbra at a rate determined by the collateral flow. So it is very much important to detect the collaterals. So if it is a collateral flow is available, then the penumbra will decrease. So the more the collateral, there are chances of recovery of penumbra are more. So that's why the collateral imaging is very much important. The value of each diagnostic method used to measure each component of stroke physiology is shown in this diagram. So this is earlier the flow chart of treatment of acute stroke. So when there is within 6 hours, the CT or conventional CT is done. Hemorrhage, there is no therapy, no hemorrhage, less than 3 hours. Initially, we are thrombolizing, but more than 3 to 6 hours, and now the window has increased to 6 to 16 hours. With this, we can detect the penumbra and we can thrombolize the patients. So here are the few data which we are using in routine our practice. Here you can see immediately the artificial intelligence shows image with a left MCA occluded and the shaded with the blue area. This blue area is indicative of a good collaterals. So here we can see in the middle of that part, they are showing blood vessel density. So 90% is very good. Here they are showing in blue. The green is 75%, 60% is yellow, and less than 45% is red. So it will detect immediately number of collaterals and it will give the color. So in your mind, just looking at the color, we can diagnose the collaterals are good, intermediate, or poor. Here we can see the poor collaterals. So what we had seen, the cerebral blood volumes, cerebral blood flow, these values initially we are going to calculate, and there is a lot of time required for post processing for the radiologists or the technicians. But these data are within a 3 minutes we are getting on our screen. Here on the right side of the image, the pink image is showing that the area is infarcted. This is a core, and the green area which is showing that area which is salvageable, that is area which can be uh, perfused less. So depending upon the core and the area of less perfusion, we can easily calculate the mismatch. So immediately that mismatch volume has been written down, that is a 39 ml. So we can see that 39 ml, that is a penumbra, which can be salvageable. We can also having some areas where the how much is the blood supplies to the brain depend upon the cerebral blood flow volumes. So these data are also available. Here is another example of mismatch. There is a small core, that is acute infarct in left MCA territory, but the penumbra that is more, the cerebral blood volume, that is the core is 49 ml, and the green part, which is the area which is hypoperfused, is 112 ml. So immediately we can minus 112 to 49, it will give you 63 ml is a salvageable tissue. So this is a good candidate for the thrombolysis. So it becomes very easy. So time is the key. What we should see as a gold standard is a CT. Definitely we will go with the plain CT scan. If there is a no hemorrhage, we will go for the CT angiography. So first in CT, plain CT, we rule out hemorrhage, early signs of ischemia, and the prognostic aspects of the scoring. Already we had seen the scoring. Then we will go for the CT angiography. This is the site of blockage. Then we will collateral mapping, we will do it. Then we will do the CT perfusion to rule out the wake-up strokes and exact time. If needed, if the candidate is for thrombolysis, we will directly go to other interventions like IV, TPAs, stents, direct aspiration techniques. So this is what immediately required in case of acute stroke imaging. Here are the few datas how artificial intelligence impact. One of the most important impact is that how fast is the stroke or infarct is increasing. That also we can calculate. Here it will give the hypoperfusion index. This is the index that is a Tmax, that is a contrast reaching time more than 10 seconds divided by more than 6 seconds. It will give us the ratios. Here in above image it is a 0.3 and below it is a 0.2. So we can also by eyeballing, we can see the above image is showing a larger infarct and lower imaging is showing smaller infarct. So above imaging, more is the hypoperfusion index. It predicts that the chances of infarct growing is more faster. So you have to interpret accordingly, and you have to tell your physician or intervention radiologist that this should be thrombolized, this should be take your action as early as possible. So in conclusion of my topic, AI gives a broader window for the treatment. That is, it now just not time prediction. You just see the penumbra, salvageable tissue, which is very much important. The exact onset and quantification it will give us, and it also helps in prognosis and the outcome of the patients in case of wake-up strokes. So still there is a confusion, then just rely on your radiologist and do some stroke protocols as already I had discussed. I think you all having outlined the acute stroke imaging and updates on artificial intelligence. If there are any questions, share with us. Thank you very much, G and InMed Prognostic, giving me this opportunity to present my topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, for that very detailed and informative presentation. Before we move into the Q&A session, we have a short video on NeuroShield that we'd like to present to the audience.
How often do you use your brain? At this question, most people chuckle or laugh, but the fact is we all use our brains all the time. Have you ever thought of your brain's health proactively? Almost never. Part of the reason is because we don't have reliable tools, which will help us manage our brain's health. So, we at InMed have come up with a solution, where we offer cloud-based clinical decision support tool for neurological disorders. NeuroShield is an artificial intelligence and machine learning-based tool, helps neuroradiologists, neurophysicians and psychiatrists understand the brain better and offer evidence-based diagnostics. The current challenges, which are operational and clinical problems. All the existing solutions addressing these problems are expensive, time-consuming and don't provide contextual results based on age, ethnicity and gender. NeuroShield, our solution, which combines the latest tools in medical and technological advancements. The common practice for doctors is to perform a neuropsychological assessment and ask for an MRI to help in diagnosing brain degenerative diseases like epilepsy and dementia. But visual MRI reading can many times provide non-conclusive information, resulting in misdiagnosis. Our software, NeuroShield, makes it possible to look clearly at the region of interest, like hippocampus, compute brain volumes, and supported by cutting-edge research and imaging analytics, which can help physicians reach more reliable and conclusive diagnosis, as opposed to the conventional method. NeuroShield is the platform that aggregates insights from relevant modalities to provide holistic health and wellness insights. These are some snapshots of the platform, provided with the test reports and volumetric analysis. Our competitive advantage metrics are as follows. Our vision is to bring affordable, accessible, reliable, and evidence-based health prognostic tools in India and other emerging markets. Reach out to us and get to know more.
Dr. Krishnan, would you like to share your thoughts on the presentation?
Yeah, thank you, Hussein. Dr. Joshi, thank you for being present here and given us a perspective from the radiology point of view on how to address and help the neurophysicians make a decision based on the diagnosis of classifying the stroke at the very first point. I thank you again. We have few medical students and also few medical fraternity also in this platform. From the last meeting we had a neurophysician, Dr. Shweta, wherein we spoke about points on saying that time is brain and the stroke is an emergency, wherein the stroke is in evolution every minute between that a very crucial window which we are trying to reduce, which will help us provide a better prognosis or a better outcome on our patients. Now, Dr. Joshi, I have one question which I would like to check with you, or would like to have your view and opinion on, is how can we, try to inculcate the interest of adapting these interventions of artificial intelligence into the medical community, both from the image-based diagnosis point of view, and also the physicians and the team which are handling the core management of stroke, Dr. Joshi.
Yeah, thank you, Hussein. Actually, regarding the treatment part, your team should be ready whenever the patients arrive and it is having no hemorrhage on CT scan and there is a large vessel occlusion. We here in Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, we directly send it for thrombolysis. Whether it is a large artery occlusion, we will go for the interventional radiologist or surgeons which are having direct thrombolysis, mechanical thrombectomy will be done. And if there is a small thrombus, then we will give directly the medicine, that is a TPA, and that can be done. But your team should be ready. There is an advantage of artificial intelligence regarding the this part, that the report which is generated from the these artificial intelligence software, it is directly reached to the treating physician, the treating neurointervention radiologist and surgeons, and immediate decision will be done. Initially it is not possible, everybody having a report delay and there are a lot of things are happening, but because of these kind of things, immediately report generated, and it is also connected with your PACS system. So that is a bigger advantage over these kind of AI tools in managing the stroke. Over to Hussein.
Thanks, Dr. Joshi. This is Dr. Unnikrishnan here. Thanks for that insight. And I would like to add to what Dr. Joshi has been pointing at from the clinical point of view. At any given point, we as clinicians, both at the at the diagnostic end and also at the prognostic end, when we are providing the first point care, there is not much at our end, because as we see, all our countries are all racing towards being the central capitals for stroke, cerebral strokes, cardiac MIs, and also oncology also presenting. There is huge inflow of patients, there is huge inflow of data, there is huge inflow of statistics which is flowing in. We cannot catch up with all those statistics and information which is coming in and flowing into the clinical fraternity. That is where clinical artificial intelligence can, help us identify all those possible patterns, which is basically both imaging data and non-imaging data, which is clinical data. And we should be, and this AI platforms and algorithms can help us virtually, address the ground truth on how can we analyze these specific patterns and be able to interpret and provide that outcomes, and also provide the predictions to the treating physicians, so that the better prognostic outcomes can be measured and also can be made available even for the future of stroke presentations.
Thank you, doctor, for your perspective from a physician side. We have another question coming from the audience. For window period, as far as the window period is concerned, for the stroke patient, which modality or examination will be the most important for immediate treatment? Talking about CT and MRI.
So gold standard by is a CT is the gold standard, because there is no contraindication for CT scan to do the plain CT scan to rule out hemorrhage. Basically, MRI having some issues like MR compatible devices, mainly the pacemakers and all. If you know the history part, and MRI will take a little bit more time than the CT scan. So it is said that the CT is the gold standard, and also CT angiography resolution as compared with the MR is more than the MR angiogram. So it is worldwide, the gold standard is CT. You should do immediate CT. If there is a small infarct, you are suspecting small infarct less than 3 ml, they said it is not detected on AI tools, not detected on CT. Then if you are sure clinically, then go for diffusion imaging. If there is a infarct, then go for angio, MR angio. So this is the protocol standards, what I think, and we are following it.
Doctor, follow-up question to that. With the newer MR techniques coming in, especially techniques like MAGIC, what are your views on using MR as a initial tool for diagnosis?
Yes, definitely. MR is helpful nowadays because of the faster sequences. And definitely we had a better outcome on MR imaging on posterior fossa strokes. So on posterior fossa stroke, these AI tools are not giving much because these are very small infarcts, mainly in the medulla or pons. So that time it is very much important and helpful, giving more data regarding the smaller infarcts by MRI. So if they are suspecting posterior fossa infarcts, we prefer MRI as compared with the CT. Definitely the sequences like MAGIC are the game changer. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Unni, any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I totally agree on what Dr. Joshi has pointed on. It is, I also again second to what Dr. Joshi pointed out on what is called as how do we approach the core of the infarct, how is the reperfusion taken into consideration, taking the penumbra and the increased window period which can be used. And to add to what Dr. Joshi has pointed out is also adding to the dynamic correlation for the future AI-based CT as the primary golden diagnostic tool to assess the primary event of stroke and follow it up with the taking into consideration the penumbra and the reperfusion MRI studies and the faster algorithms, MR algorithm, imaging algorithms helps us to give a more correlative and prognostic outcomes for the patient and the treating physicians to give better prognosis for the patient. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor.
And there is a excellent results with AI tools we are having with wake up stroke. So initially wake up stroke are ignored by the emergency team, but nowadays with wake up stroke, with these AI tools, we can calculate the mismatch and the penumbra volume. If the penumbra volume is more than the core and the area involved by the brain is important, we can directly go for the thrombolysis. So that gives us a very good results, and that is also very much change. That is a greater impact that AI had done up till now. So we had a huge data regarding the wake up stroke, and definitely we are treating very well as compared with the previous wake up stroke management.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, could you shed some light on what are some of the specific reasons the wake-up stroke is missed in the initial diagnosis?
Yeah, wake up stroke is
missed in the initial diagnosis.
Yeah, most of the time the history part or patients are not, definitely they are not ready to get it done. They might be recovered a little bit when there is a small small infarcts. But if there is a proper history and there is a recovery, but we should still go for the imaging and look for any penumbra. So if it is a very small infarct, then just whatever the things you can ignore. Look for the large vessel occlusions. Sometimes there are large vessel occlusions. We are getting it, but these people are having very good collateral. They recover early. So that's why the wake-up stroke is very much ignored initially. But nowadays, because of these kind of tools, we can have good data and we can confirm, let's say that this kind of penumbra can be salvageable. So with good collaterals and having large penumbra on wake-up stroke, we are still thrombolizing. And each and every wake-up stroke should undergo imaging initially. With perfusion imaging, what we had a protocol in our hospital, we are doing perfusion imaging and CT angio in each and every wake-up stroke patients.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor, another question we have from the audience. From an India perspective, where we know that the patient rarely ever reaches the hospital within the golden hour, could you shed some light on how much time AI could help us save, from a ballpark measure? Because we know that time is tissue in terms of stroke patients. So, how much time could we save if we use tools like this from your experience in the field?
Yes, definitely. In Indian scenario, it is very difficult to get the patients before 3 hours. There are certain papers who had already published. They are saying that there are chances of hemorrhage are more if the patients are coming late. But now, because of this kind of small infarct, small core with large penumbra and having good collaterals, the few papers had already said that there are less chances and there are chances of recovery, and that is the salvageable tissue can be recovered very much because of these kind of collaterals. So it is in initial days the time is very important, but nowadays we can see the salvageable tissue is important. So just ignore the time, just do the imaging and look at the mismatch volume. That is more important because nobody knows the exact time when it is started, and nobody even bothered to count the time because the patient which is undergoing this kind of strokes, they are unaware about the timings and all. So very less likely to have the time interval now people see. They only see the salvageable tissue. If the core is larger, if it is core is very much larger, the artery territory more than 2/3, then there is hardly any chances of recovery. So if it is MCI infarct and having 2/3 of MCI is thrombose and already core has developed 2/3, then we can say there are no chance in giving the thrombolysis. So that tissue, though we are salvaging, but there is a deficit that patient will have, and there are chances of hemorrhage are more. So depending upon the small core and large penumbra, we can say there are chances with good collaterals, there are chances of recovery are more. So just forget about the time when you are using the artificial intelligence. Believe in that. You also getting a lot of tools of perfusion imaging. We can calculate the perfusion imaging values and just thrombolize and take the decisions. Because a lot of patients survive, a lot of patients completely recovered from these kind of wake-up strokes and as well as stroke which are more than 4 hours. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor, for that detailed response. We have a question. Artificial intelligence is a relatively new technology, and there have been questions on the efficacy and the medico-legal aspect of artificial intelligence. as a practicing radiologist and Dr. Uni as a practicing physician, what are your views on this particular question raised by the medical community? What are the
Dr. Joshi can start.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, Hussein?
Yes, doctor. So there has artificial intelligence is a relatively new technology which has taken precedence in the last 2 decades, typically. So what are your views on how much can we trust it and the medico-legal aspects of artificial intelligence as a clinician?
Yeah, definitely. See, we have to calculate and rely on data which are providing by the artificial intelligence. We have to do some testing on that, and then only we can approve these kind of AI tools. So it is very much approved by FDAs and pharma authorities. These tools are very much important whenever they are tested and whenever they are getting the results. So there are few things I can here mention. These kind of AI tools, they cannot detect a smaller infarct, mainly the less than 3 ml. They said that less than 3 ml of infarcts, it will not calculate. So if you are sure, you can go for the MRI. So on CT perfusion, less than 3 ml is undetectable. So then again, there are certain issues regarding the patient's movement. So if your imaging is not good, then reliability is decreased on your reporting. So always having less patient motion. So there few tools are available. They are doing motion correction and they are doing very much good results. But by manually also you can do this kind of post processing by correcting the motion, and you can have the data. But there are certain, still there is a big scope in development of AI team. Whatever the data they are providing are the pixel by pixel. Initially we got the tools of perfusion imaging, but these perfusion imaging we are getting only on one single slice. So whole slice or whole brain quantification is very difficult. But these AI tools are giving pixel on pixel volumes, and that creates a very good results. And that's why we can say still you can rely on AI, but definitely the clinical knowledge and radiologist knowledge always important. And there is a authentication of the AI tools by radiologist, and the generated reports that should be authenticated by a radiologist who knows all these AI tools. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi.
Yeah.
I would be only adding to what Dr. Joshi has spoken about. In the past decades, the only takers of the imaging data and non-imaging clinical data were only the radiologist and the clinical physicians. But today, in the last few years, a couple of years or 5 years or 10 years, the evolution of artificial intelligence, or what I can say is that saying is talking about using the technology to understand the database, both imaging and non-imaging database, and be able to slice and dice the data and also clinically correlate it, has evolved and is in evolution. The most important point at this point is that the adoption of artificial intelligence as a technology perspective into the clinical domain is very important, so that we can validate, as Dr. Joshi has pointed out, both from the imaging perspective by the radiologist, the clinical significance of images and the outcomes, and also the treating physician who is imbibing the diagnostic outcomes given by the radiologist and the AI tools so as to imbibe better outcomes. Now, this would not happen unless and until there is adoption of the AI as a platform into the neuroimaging or the neurology fraternity.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi and Dr. Unni. Our final question for the day. Doctor, what are your views on using artificial intelligence and cloud software to send out alerts to doctors where the AI and the grabbing can happen at the modality, and the AI runs the algorithms and sends out alerts to doctors so that they can activate their personnel in the hospitals to take measures. What are your views on that, Doctor?
So you are talking about the data security.
No, doctor. So basically, the question is that once the scan has been taken, say the CT scan has been taken at the hospital, what are your views on, or what would be the benefit of a critical patient's alert being sent to the doctor on their phone or on their laptop, where they can take action faster for the patient to receive treatment faster?
Yes. There, in my hospital, we are using already that tool, and there is a very good tool. It gives us the notification on your mobile that if there is a large vessel occlusion, it will notify you on your screen as a notification how you get on your mobile. So it will pop up the notification that large vessel occlusion is there, and the patient's name and age and what type of large vessel occlusion, it will be notified on mobile. And definitely that also help us if the neurophysician is not in the hospital but he want to see the images, and he want to send the message to his team to thrombolize or not to thrombolize. He can give that message on that mobile only, and that is possible nowadays, and definitely it is a game changer. Basically, within a 3 minutes you are getting all this data. This can be interpreted very well in 2 to 3 minutes, and the decision can be made within 10 minutes. So within 10 to 15 minutes, that patient, wherever the doctor is, he will get the treatment in a proper manner. So which is very much boon, or we can say that this is the greatest impact of AI. So yeah, the Hussein.
Yes. Thank you, doctor. We have a question from Shivam. What are the unmet needs available in diagnosis or treat of stroke disease? What are some of the low-hanging fruits when it comes to using artificial intelligence, where the effort versus effect for the patient's life would be higher? In terms of which are some of the features of AI, which is the most important when it comes to saving the patient's life?
So definitely the helpful tools, mainly we can see the scoring system for the prognosis, which is very important. When there is no radiologist available in remote places, with knowing the exact the scoring system out of 10, the prognostication that can be explained to the patient's relatives by the remote areas physicians. Also, if there is a angiography and perfusion imaging is available, that is also helpful to counsel and definitely counsel about regarding the prognosis of that patient. So these are the few tools which are available. Definitely now more and more tools are coming, like trauma brain imaging. Then lot of tools are available regarding the volumetric analysis of the brain. So these tools are available, and that data is available, and that can be generated, and that is very much helpful to the patient's prognosis and the treatment part, even in remote areas. So this is a really good thing that artificial intelligence is helping the physicians as well as the radiologist. So making the decision in a proper manner.
Thank you, doctor. Final question of the day. Why do we have the reoccurrence of stroke? Is it a failure of diagnosis or the failure of proper medication when it comes to reoccurrence of stroke in a stroke patient?
So I can say there are physician can give the better answer than the radiologist.
Yeah, Dr. Joshi. Dr. Joshi must have already seen many patients coming back to the hospital 1 year down the lane, 6 months down the lane with a second stroke. Actually, this is a wonderful question. We have seen and we will see such presentations where there is a restroke presentation in the scenario. Um, there are many factors, but which coin or which precedes the diagnosis of the primary stroke, the treatment provided, and also the outcome of the stroke, and also the or what we call it as what we say as the hand holding of a stroke patient to prevent a second episode. But at the end of the day, the key factor is always having the right decision taken at the right time, where there is a hand holding of both neuroimaging, the latest treatment plan of action, and guiding the treatment plan towards a more a subtle and a stronger way to prevent a second event. That should be the ultimate goal. But towards this, a lot of predictability and probability tools have to be incorporated into the neuro or the neurology as a fraternity is very important. But for all these things, as Dr. Joshi pointed out, it should be aptly and concisely validated by both the imaging experts and also the clinical care providers, so as to provide a more robust stroke imaging and outcome based treatment plan, which is only possible through more active participation of both the treating neurophysicians, the neuroradiologists, and adapting the artificial intelligence platforms so as to define, I would say, defining the true future of stroke, both in the clinical front and also in the research front. Dr. Joshi, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, definitely you had explained very well. I agree with you, and definitely there are certain studies and papers also. They had think that one particular area with the infarcts that can cause more infarcts. Yes. So depending upon the arterial status and depending upon the cause of the stroke, that creates a different views. And there are few papers, these are already has been published. So there are no particular reason that stroke may happen, and we can predict the strokes. So if there is a underlying disease cause, that should be treated in a proper manner, so that can prevent repeated strokes. And that's why these all things are coming, and definitely we can predict the stroke outcome also in future with the development of artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi and Dr. Unni, for putting together this presentation and sharing it with our audience. I'm sure the audience has benefited tremendously. You can write to us at info@in-medprognostics.com. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 5th edition of our series of webinars, and we hope to see you in our next edition for our series of webinars with the theme Advances in Neuroimaging. A video recording of this webinar will be sent to you via email, and look forward to seeing you in our future sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hussain. Thank you, Dr. Joshi.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, participants.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Hussain. Thank you very much.